Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a decent weekend, a good weekend, and a good Shabbos. In any case, I want to speak about something that's a continuation of a topic we've already touched upon, and that is our free choice. Free choice, as it turns out in Judaism, is really the goal of everything as far as how we're supposed to develop ourselves to be the best possible human being that Hashem created. And potentially all of our Judaism is focused on how do we really become a truly free person. And being a free person is a free choice. And of course, Torah and mitzvahs provide us with the tools to be able to exercise that free choice, not only on a daily basis, but really on a minute-to-minute basis, and to be able to really do what we need to do to give our soul, our neshama, the full expression it needs in order to be able to be its true self, which is the ultimate development of a human being and of a Jew. So I know that might sound a little complicated, but whatever it may be, I wanted to talk about something else also that's related to that. Tanya, as those of you who are learning the Chitas, the daily portion of the Tanya that we learn for chapters 28, 29, and 30, talk in great depth about literally the literal war that we're meant to have with ourselves internally. In other words, that there's different forces working on within the person, within each and every single one of us. And these forces are very powerful and they're very distracting, and they can cause us tremendous trials and tribulations, and they can put thoughts in our minds. They could play tricks on us. They could do all types of things, and they could also inspire us to do great things and push us to be wonderful people. So what's the inner wiring that makes all that happen? So years ago, I had met with a parent of ours in school, and I was talking to her about her work, and she does research on the brain. I said, what area of the brain are you doing research on? So she said, you're doing research on the Yetzer Hara, which is, in the English translation, the evil inclination that we all have to not exactly be on our best behavior. So years went by, and I finally had an opportunity recently to be able to talk with her about that. And I asked her, so what were the results of your research? It was very interesting. So she explained to me the following. She said there's a lobe in the brain, which is basically all about, let's say, emotions of arousal. In other words, anger is something that has a positive and a negative. You can be angry in the way of Kedusha and angry, of course, in a very negative way. You can be arrogant in a positive and negative way. You could have emotions that are very high, very low. God created all these different emotions, which by definition, for the most part, are parv, they're neutral. But they can be tapped and stimulated in ways that will be either positive or negative. So there's an aspect of the brain of our lobe, a lobe of our brain, which is wired to be able to be aroused in one or the other way. So we can arouse those emotions, those feelings, whether it be desires, whether it be addictions, all these different things that we can arouse, either in a positive or negative way. And we're vulnerable to that type of arousal. And that part of the brain can be aroused. That's where perhaps we get our, dopamine, and where we have good feelings about doing certain things or about eating or other things. And also from some of our taivas and desires or distractions that we know we shouldn't be involved in, we can get good feelings from that as well. But she said there's also another part of the brain, which right at the front of the brain over here, which is, I forget the frontal lobe, but there's a name for it. And that lobe is really trained and created to short circuit the previous lobe that I referred to. In other words, it has the ability to overcome the desires and the arousal that happens in the first lobe. So that even though we might instinctively have a lot of stimulation and a lot of arousal from all different ends, from all different stimuli, all through the day, but we have the ability to on an ongoing basis, to hold it back and to stop that arousal from taking place if we know it's a wrong type of arousal. And that short circuit is, of course, the key to really exercising free choice. Because when you think about it, that's really what we do. It's not that God created us in a way that our natural tendency is to do good or to restrict ourselves or to control ourselves. No. First comes the arousal. And then after that, we have to stimulate the frontal lobe to be able to stop the arousal from going in the wrong direction. And that's called the Escoffier. That is the bending of our will, which the Tanya talks about. And that, it could be a constant process, because a person's lobe that deals with stimulation and arousal is constantly stimulated by things around us, by things from within us, from the thoughts of the heart, thoughts of the mind, distractions, things we see, things we feel. So the stimulation is constant. But a person has to constantly exercise this frontal lobe in order to make sure that that stimulation should not go in the wrong direction. So I found that interesting. Being somewhat analytical myself, I like to see how these things work on the inside. And it puts things in a little bit of a different perspective. Because now we understand why we're always really in the process of having to fight this battle that the Tanya talks about. And we really can't rest, because at any moment there could be something that causes some type of arousal in that first lobe that's going to distract us and take us a place we really don't want to be. But we can exercise free choice. And that honor, that privilege is something that's only ours. Any other part of this universe, any cell, molecule, animal, star, whatever it might be, works on the basis of its instincts. We have that frontal lobe to funnel, channel, to restrict, and to control that instinct to be able to be the better person we know we have the potential to be. So let's hope that we'll be able to do it. I'm going to continue on this tomorrow. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Tanya says about this, and hopefully you'll have some food for thought to be able to think about how do we really understand what's going on inside of us and take control of it, take responsibility for it, and make ourselves a better Jew as a result of it. Take care. Have a great day.